Hey yo, what's up everybody? It's LeeLos. I'm just testing to make sure that this stream is actually up and that I am not just speaking to myself. Yeah, I am just checking on my phone to make sure that the stream's actually up and going for you guys to see. Let's see. Okay, yeah, it looks like the stream's up and good. Hey, what's up everybody? It's LeeLos, and today we're going to be analyzing the key moments from chapter 1106 of One Piece. Hey, Blinken77, what's up? Welcome to the stream. So yeah, today we're analyzing chapter 1106 of One Piece in a similar manner that I do for the One Piece is Perfect series, where we analyze full arcs. Here we're going to be analyzing the chapter, talking about some power scaling stuff, and talking about some narrative elements that have been sprinkled into the chapter. And it's pretty cool. Like, when you've been reading One Piece for a really long time, you start to notice the narrative patterns that have been happening from pre-time skip to current chapters. So it's interesting to look at those things and to talk about them, and then to talk about the power scaling too. It's all really fun. So let's get into it. And as you guys are watching, feel free to ask any questions you want. But like, as I'm analyzing, I'll check. I won't read like while I'm in the middle of analysis, but like in between slides, I'll read comments, questions, and can answer those. So don't think I'm ignoring you if I don't answer right away. I will answer it. So yeah, that's what I was trying to say. But anyways, let's get into it. So this chapter starts off, we have the cover story. So with Oda, he has two different types of cover stories, like two different formats to them. So one of them is when he just has like a legitimate side story in the form of a cover story, and they range from 3 to about 12 chapters long, where each cover page will be like one little segment of a side story. And when you put all of the segments together, you get a story that actually adds something to the main story of One Piece. They did that with Ace versus Blackbeard, for example. If you go back to those chapters, like 30 chapters before Ace fights Blackbeard, there's like a 5-chapter long cover story where Ace is following different leads, trying to find Blackbeard, and keeps meeting different people that aren't Blackbeard but look kind of like him. One of the people he meets is Vice Admiral Cormill, and then that Vice Admiral ends up being in Marineford later. So that's like an example of that kind of side story that's interesting, adds something to the plot. And then that side story ends with Ace actually successfully finding Blackbeard, so his chasing paid off, and so did Blackbeard's chasing pay off too. It's an interesting parallel, because Blackbeard was chasing Luffy, found Ace. Ace was chasing Blackbeard and found him. But that's that kind. And then the other kind of side story are the ones like this, where they're one-off side stories, and usually they're like requests from the reader, and they just say, hey, like, draw a character doing something, but they still have the life of the character in them. So this one right here with Robin, she's giving an animal a cute outfit. So this plays on the theme of Robin loving animals, loving cute things, and loving cute animals. So this was shown back, well, actually this has been shown numerous times throughout the story, but a good notable example was when they were climbing Zoe on the back of that drawn dragon. I struggle saying its name. It was like Roronosuke. I struggle saying it, but that drawing of a dragon, right? She has, when it vanishes, Robin has a moment where she's like pretty much fangirling over it, saying how cute it is. It also explains her motherly relationship with Chopper, because out of the Straw Hats, her and Nami are the only ones that like recognize that Chopper's a cute animal. The rest of them just kind of view Chopper as like a furry, like a hairy human being. But it's interesting because this cover story plays on that small element of Robin's character. So here, the chapter starts off with us getting some more info about Luffy that just kind of naturally makes you question the limits of his abilities. and what he's capable of. So we see here at the start of the chapter, Luffy goes from fat to skinny instantaneously, and the Marines around him are like, what the heck? How are you able to do that? Wait 1 second, guys. Let me take a slug of this water. It improves audio quality when you're properly hydrated. 1 sec. That's a fun fact for you. Anyways, so yeah, the Marines are like, what the heck? Like, why is a human being doing this? This is weird and strange. So this is either a Qigong ability or an extension of Luffy's Gear 5 ability, him going from fat to skinny like this. We don't know what it is exactly yet, but here's something that I want to say about it. So Luffy's been able to do this, like go from fat to skinny, eat a ton. You know, this was part of his character from the very beginning. And at first it was just something funny. Before Dressrosa, it was more just kind of viewed as something funny. But in Dressrosa, we're introduced to this character here, Lao Ji, and he does a similar thing. It's kind of like the reverse of what Luffy normally does. So instead of going from fat to skinny, he's going from skinny and frail to super jacked. So basically, Lao Ji is doing the same thing that Master Roshi would do back in Dragon Ball, original Dragon Ball. And yeah, if you watch the original Dragon Ball, Master Roshi would do this all the time. He would go from skinny and frail to just super jacked. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Lao Ji is actually based on Master Roshi himself. He probably is. Okay, then in Whole Cake Island, just like 2 arcs after Dressrosa, Luffy has this moment again where he goes from fat to skinny. And before this, whenever Luffy would do it, side characters would see it, but it was more just viewed as like a gag, or they would just ignore it altogether. But after Dressrosa, something I've noticed is now characters that before would say nothing about Luffy doing this are going out of their way to mention that this does not seem like something a human being should be able to do. This happens here in Whole Cake Island, and it just happened again in this most recent chapter where this guy sees Luffy go from fat to skinny and says, what the heck, bro? Like, humans shouldn't be able to do that. Okay? So the reason I'm saying all of this is because Oda has patterns in his writing, and if you like pay close attention to the patterns, you can kind of see what's going to happen next in some situations. So this pattern of Luffy doing this fat to skinny technique and it not being recognized by anyone for most of the story, but now all of a sudden it's getting recognized and stated numerous times like, hey, a human shouldn't be able to do this. Okay, that's a pattern. And this pattern happened many times, but here's 2 notable times it happened. So this same narrative pattern happened with Haki. Haki was originally invisible, but after Luffy learns Haki, Oda begins drawing Armament Haki as black. So it was something that was happening before, but we couldn't see it. Then once Luffy became aware of it, we could see it. Versus here, it was like this was happening before. We weren't aware other characters can do it, but now other characters are doing it, and now everyone's aware of it. So that's a narrative pattern there. And it also is similar to the narrative pattern of Doflamingo and Kaido. When they fought Luffy, they both stated that Luffy was doing things that are outside of the bounds of what someone whose powers are rubber should be able to do. Doflamingo said that in Dressrosa, and then Kaido says that in Wano when they're fighting. Then it gets revealed that Luffy's actually a mythical zone. Okay, so that's similar to what's happening here. It's like multiple instances of people saying, hey, this is weird, we don't know what's going on. Hey, this is weird, we don't know what's going on. So if it follows the same pattern exactly, then eventually pretty soon here we're going to get an explanation as to why Luffy can do this, and it's either going to be the Qui-Gon or the Nika abilities, but it's probably like his fruit. It probably has something to do with his fruit, especially considering right after he does this, he goes into Gear 5. It kind of narratively makes you assume that the reason he can do this is because of weird powers from his fruit that have not been explained yet. Okay. So, yeah, here's something that I wanted to talk about too. Luffy goes into Gear 5 immediately. Wait, let me see if there's any questions or anything. Any questions? Is that... Oh, yeah, I'm checking the questions right now in the chat. Is that Lao G? Good, it's almost 1 a.m. here. Okay, sick. Welcome to the stream, everybody. I'm happy you guys are here. I hope you guys are enjoying the stream. Okay, so yeah, here Luffy goes... As soon as Luffy, like, gets his fighting ability back, first thing he does is go straight back into Gear 5. So that brings up a couple different questions, like, why did he go straight into Gear 5? Why doesn't he use his other gears too? So let's talk about that. So Gear 5 is kind of becoming what Gear 2nd used to be back at the start of the time skip. So if you go back in your memory to when you were watching One Piece for the first time, and you would see Luffy using Gear 2nd. In the beginning, Gear 2nd was like this really special ability that he would only use in like last ditch scenario, nothing else working. Okay, now Gear 2. But then once he gets into the time skip, he's mastered Gear 2 and he can use it a lot more. It's just kind of like a normal ability. It just becomes something he's doing all the time. Gear 5 seems to be following that same pattern, and I think like as the series goes on, this will become something Luffy just uses on even like weak opponents. He'll use Gear 5 eventually. So it seems like that pattern's happening, and that's also just kind of been a pattern that Luffy does with all of his gears. It starts out as something with a big drawback, but as he uses it more and more, he gets more versed with the ability, and the drawbacks become less and less until he masters the gear. The interesting thing about Gear 5, though, is like Luffy hasn't even fully mastered Gear 4 yet. He still gets drawbacks from Gear 4, whereas he no longer gets notable drawbacks from Gear 2 or 3. So, it's interesting to see the progress and the direction that Oda takes with Gear 5. Something else worth mentioning, I wrote a quick note here. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Something else worth mentioning is this. It makes me wonder, can Luffy beat Kizaru without Gear 5? And that's actually a question I'd like to propose to you guys to think about and discuss. Like, if Luffy wasn't using Gear 5, would he still be able to beat Kizaru? I don't know. But that could be a reason why he's not using other gears. He just, in his mind, believes, I need Gear 5 to win. Another option is that he might just be thinking, I need to finish this battle as soon as possible, so I'm going to just go all out right away. There's a lot of different possibilities and reasonings as to why Luffy's going straight into Gear 5, even though the drawbacks are huge. So it's an interesting thing to discuss. Also, something else I wanted to say is that the drawbacks between Gear 5 and Gear 4 are pretty similar to each other, but obviously Gear 5 is a little bit more drastic. So the reason I was mentioning that was, like, if you wanted to say, well, no reason in using Gear 4 that much anymore because the drawbacks between Gear 4 and Gear 5 are about the same, but Gear 5 is just stronger. That's a reasonable thing to say too. Okay. So as the chapter progresses, the Pacifista, these upgraded new models of the Pacifista, are about to turn Bonnie and Kuma into atoms. Then it's revealed that Vegapunk gave Bonnie authority over all Pacifista, and she actually has authority even above the 5 elders. So the Pacifista listen to Bonnie's commands, and they turn against the Buster Call and start attacking the Buster Call instead of Bonnie. 1 second, guys. One more swig of this water. Okay. So there's a few factors to this. We don't know how this battle between the Pacifista and the Buster Call soldiers and Vice Admirals is going to end. The Marines might find a way to get control of the Pacifista again. But these Pacifista, just to give you an idea on how strong they are, they're stronger than the Pacifista in Marineford, but they're weaker than the Seraphim. And they also have bubble shields that have sea stone prism properties within them. So it's kind of like having a mini version of Blackbeard's darkness fruit on hand, because like they can just trap devil fruit users. They're able to trap the Seraphim with these bubbles, which is pretty interesting. But if these Pacifista, so the reason I brought this up is because these Pacifista, they might be strong enough to actually take out a Buster Call. And if, the Buster Call soldiers. And if they do, that's super impressive, because that would put like these upgraded Pacifista as a squad above Buster Call soldiers as a squad. But there's no way that they'd beat a full Buster Call on their own, because a Buster Call is Vice Admirals plus an Admiral, and then their fleets. So let me get in this next slide here. So this isn't a normal Buster Call. Yeah, this isn't a normal Buster Call. It's stronger than normal ones. So it has an Admiral and it has a 5 Elder. And on top of that, they brought CP0 and they brought numerous soldiers with 6 powers. Right here, they state it like they have 6 power users and they want them like directly on the land and stuff. And these guys, like, the Vice Admirals and their fleet were so stacked and strong that they were able to fight the Sea Beasts, Vegapunk's Sea Beasts, while they were in the water. So, I mean, if the Pacifista actually beat these guys, that would be crazy. And my stance on it is, I mean, okay, I'll just be honest. We don't know if the Pacifista are going to win. But I think that the Pacifista might be able to beat everybody except for, like, the Admiral and the 5 Elder. They might be able to beat these Vice Admirals. Maybe. I don't really know. It's going to be interesting to see how this fight ends. But if they're able to pull this W off, then these Pacifista are cracked. Another thing worth mentioning is in Fishman Island, Jinbei states that the Marines now, post-time skip, are stronger than they were pre-time skip. So it's like these guys are fighting a above average Buster Call just to begin with, plus the soldiers themselves are a lot stronger, so it's than normal anyway. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. If the Pacifista win, that's going to be nuts. Then Vegapunk, good old Vegapunk, gets stabbed through his chest and he might die. We don't know yet. Ace died from this, and Ace is far stronger than Vegapunk, so I mean, if he dies, it would make sense. And the question this made me start thinking is like, you know, Vegapunk is this super genius scientist, and he's made all these crazy weapons. Does he ever make any weapons for himself? Like, you know, like maybe like an Iron Man suit or something, like some way to enhance his body so he's not like just a defenseless old man against these superhuman monsters. I don't know. He might even have like some technology that heals him. I mean, with all of his tech, it would be kind of silly to not create super advanced medicine. So we'll see what happens, but Vegapunk might die here. And we'll find out in these next couple chapters. Then Kizaru shows up. He's about to chop Bonnie and Kuma in half. And I'm gonna be honest with you. So the panel right before this where they show Kizaru's about to chop Bonnie and Kuma in half, I'm gonna be real with you. I don't really like Kizaru that much anymore. He's kind of like a mindless dog. That's kind of all he is. He's just like a mindless dog. He doesn't stand up for his own ideas at all. Because he's stated throughout this fight numerous times that he doesn't want to kill Vegapunk. He doesn't want to do this mission. He doesn't want to kill Bonnie, but he's still gonna do all those things. And it's like, and he's aware that Bonnie's 12, and he's like, yeah, I'm good with chopping a 12-year-old in half. You know, that's Kizaru's mind. Like, it's pretty jacked that he's like that, but he's like that. Anyway, so Luffy stops Kizaru from killing Bonnie and Kuma, and just instantly goes back to cooking Kizaru. So in their first fight, Luffy won that exchange. Kizaru went down from Luffy nearly knocking him clean out, like he owed him some lunch money, while Luffy went down simply because his transformation time limit ran out. Those are two completely different things, and it paints a picture of the difference in their power. And the moment the fight starts again, Kizaru's just instantly back to getting cooked. So in this final saga of One Piece, it seems Oda's more doubling down on the idea of Yonko being above the admirals. The fleet admiral is what I'm assuming will be saved for the marine that can potentially defeat a Yonko. But right now, every interaction that the Yonkos and the admirals have had in the New World has just been the Yonkos schooling them. So it seems like this is the narrative direction that Oda wants to go, is that the admirals are below the Yonko, the fleet admirals are like Yonko level, and then it's tricky with what he wants to do with the five elders. It's hard to tell if the five elders are stronger than admirals or not. They seem like in that ballpark for sure. And then Imu seems like she's going to be stronger than the fleet admiral. Okay, now this was like... Okay, so this part right here is the most interesting part of the chapter. So let's talk about it, okay? So there's this scene where Vegapunk explains to Bonnie that Luffy is the sun god Nika. And the thing is, it makes you... The way Vegapunk words this is it made me question what we were told about the prophecy. So this will just be a light summary of how the Joy Boy prophecy works, because I did a full video explaining like how the Joy Boy prophecy works in detail. It's called Gear 5 is Perfect. It's an hour long, and it's like it goes over everything about the Joy Boy prophecy from the whole series. So this is just going to be a light, very light, quick explanation so you can understand like this point I'm making here. So it goes like this. So let's see. Okay, so here's the prophecy just explained really simply, the Joy Boy prophecy. So in Fishman Island, the Fishman Island arc, they confirm that there is a character in One Piece named Joy Boy. And Joy Boy lived 800 years ago. And this Joy Boy character made a promise to Fishman Island where he's like, hey, you know, I screwed up. I was trying to do something. I failed. But don't worry, 800 years from now, someone's going to take care of it. That promise right there, that's the Joy Boy prophecy. And that's the prophecy that Luffy's fulfilling now, which is why he's called the modern age Joy Boy. Okay? And the common theory was, well, let me explain that a little more. The reason why Luffy's called the modern day Joy Boy is because this promise was Joy Boy's promise that Joy Boy failed to keep, and Luffy's succeeding where Joy Boy failed. So it's like, think of it like this. Think of Joy Boy like a title to whoever fulfills the promise. Joy Boy was supposed to do it 800 years ago, but he failed. The new Joy Boy is Luffy right now. So that's how the Joy Boy prophecy works. But there's still mysteries around it. We don't know what the old Joy Boy was like. We don't know his powers or anything like that. And a common theory was that the Joy Boy 800 years ago ate the same sun god fruit that Luffy ate, and that Joy Boy in the past awakened it too, which is why Zunisha was like, okay, yeah, when he saw Luffy go Gear 5, he's like, oh, this is a familiar heartbeat. I heard this 800 years ago. Okay? And so this theory still might be the case, and I'll be honest, I actually think it is. I think that is the case. But the way Vegapunk words this, it makes me question if the prophecy of Joy Boy, if that whole story, if that was, look, this story right here, this story, Who's Who states in Wano, he says that ancient slaves in ancient times believed that the sun god Nico would save them, and they would pray to him for salvation in ancient times. Here's the big thing. It makes me question, was this actually a myth about the past, or was it a myth prediction about the future? Because this myth, all it says is that slaves would pray for the sun god Nika to save them. And then during Wano, when Luffy's clashing with Kaido in their final clash, the slaves of Wano get on their knees and pray. They pray for Luffy to save them, just like in the myth. Okay? And there's characters in One Piece that can travel into the future. There's a character alive right now that can see into the future, that shark, fish, merman character in Fishman Island, Sharky. So with that being considered, it makes me really wonder, was this actually an ancient myth? Or did someone 800 years ago look into the future, saw Luffy clashing with Kaido, and saw these slaves praying, and were like, oh yeah, you know, eventually this is going to happen. There will be a sun god Nika and people will pray. You know, so, and the reason I question, is that past or future? It's because like this myth lines up exactly with what happened in Wano. And then on top of that, what Vegapunk says right here, he says for centuries, people all over the world have been waiting for him. And it kind of makes it sound like, wait, was there never a sun god in the past and Luffy's the first sun god and they were waiting for a sun god to show up this whole time? So it was all just like a prediction that a sun god would eventually show up, and like in the past they didn't actually have one, and that Luffy's the first sun god and not the second. Those are questions that I have, and this chapter made me really think that, and I think it's an interesting thing to discuss because it's still just a theory, and it just brings light to like how layered the Joy Boy stuff really is. And then finally the chapter finishes up with Dory and Brogy showing up, doing some wild stuff, looking for Luffy, and the reason why this is interesting is because it pretty much confirms that Elbaf is where we're going right after this. So yeah, Egghead Island is an insane arc. It looks like Egghead Island's about to finish up and head straight over to Egghead, so I'm excited for that. And I think sorry, did I say, I think I might have said it wrong. I'm excited for us to go from Egghead Island to Elbaf, and based on the parallels, like Egghead Island is like a parallel to Sabaody, so Elbaf is probably going to be a parallel to Impel Down. So some crazy stuff should happen. It's either going to be a parallel to Impel Down or a parallel to or they'll have like a small arc in between this and Elbaf that'll be a parallel to what was it? Oh, to Amazon Lily. Yeah, so they might have a parallel to Amazon Lily. We might even see them stop by and see Boa again for a little bit. There was something else I wanted to mention too. Oh yeah, so since the story of One Piece tends to like parallel itself, like Egghead Island is a parallel of Sabaody. The next arc, we might have a transition arc that'll be a parallel to Amazon Lily. Then we'll have a parallel to Impel Down where a lot of crazy stuff's happening. That's going to be Elbaf. Then if it's a direct parallel, then right after that we'll have the final battle in One Piece, the final war arc, which is going to be crazy. And then we'll have like the final arc of One Piece. So I mean, we might only have like 3 or 4 more arcs left in One Piece, guys. We might literally only have like 3 or 4 left. So, or maybe like 3 islands left, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, a lot of stuff happened in that chapter. It was really interesting. Let me looking at the chat now to see if there's any interesting comments here. So I'm just reading the comments. So Octillery Knight says, no, we saw he's not fast enough. Even in Snake Man, he was getting blitzed. Oh, okay, so that was in reference to, what is it? Sorry. That was in reference to when I was saying if Gear 4 could beat Kizaru. And you're saying he wasn't fast enough. That's possible. So, yeah, it's interesting because, like, if you look at a lot of Luffy's fights, he takes a lot of damage, but he can still pull out the W. So it's like, he was losing the exchange in the Gear 4 versus Kizaru fight that we saw, but it's interesting to think, like, could Kizaru take King Kong Gun and get back up? Like the King Kong Gun with Advanced Conqueror's Haki, I think it's called Over Kong Gun. I don't know if Kizaru could survive that. But maybe he could. I don't know, though. I would say that the Over Kong Gun might be stronger than the White Star Gun that laid him out. Because White Star Gun is kind of like just a named Gear 5 attack, while Over Kong Gun is the strongest Gear 4 attack. So it's debate. I don't know. It's interesting to think about. That would have to be like that could be a long video on its own. Gear 4 versus Kizaru. And Thug Greasy, what's up? Thug Greasy, I think you're friends with Lenny, I think. And he said, also another thing, if you noticed, PS Shark's hand missing. And PS Shark attacked Nami with. His hand is missing? Let me see. So this guy, his hand is missing. I don't have a panel of him in the slides, but I'm gonna look back and look for that. Like, did Nami rip that man's hand off? And also, you got to realize that Kizaru's having a Garp and Marineford situation. He kind of is, but the Garp and Marineford was very different because Garp froze. So like when Garp was in Marineford, here's the thing. So Garp in Marineford, he was stronger than Whitebeard. Based on narrative, in their prime, Garp was stronger because they were both Roger's rival in their prime. While Garp is stated to have nearly killed Roger numerous times, but when we see Whitebeard actually fight a sick, dying Roger, they fight for 10 days and Whitebeard doesn't win. It's like a stalemate draw. Versus Garp fought healthy, normal Roger countless times and nearly killed him countless times. So Garp is the only character in One Piece with a narrative claim that insane. He literally nearly killed the Pirate King numerous times 1v1. He's the only one with that claim. And then we find out that he never stopped training. The same training that made him a monster in his prime, he never stopped. And he never stopped fighting either. And as a vice admiral, he would go on to train numerous other cadets and be like more involved in hands-on missions than he would have been if he were just an admiral or a fleet admiral. So Garp most likely was the strongest Marine there and was stronger than Whitebeard because they were the same, like they were relative in their prime, with Garp narratively being stronger in their prime. Then Whitebeard's dying of old age, sickness, and all this crazy stuff, literally has a heart attack mid-battle, and Garp was there on the opposite side, just a healthier version of Whitebeard, basically. And he didn't do a dang thing on purpose, because if he wanted to, Garp could have went out there and killed Whitebeard. He could have went out there, soloed all the commanders. He could have ended Marineford with, like, so fast if he chose to fight. But the only thing he does the whole time is he punches Marco once. Something that the admirals themselves could have done. Then he lets Luffy get past him. Like he let Ace go free. He literally let Ace go free, because if he wanted to, he would have just one-shot KO'd Luffy, but he didn't. He let Ace go. And so it's like Garp did way more for Ace. And then not only to mention that, Garp kept Ace a secret from the world his entire first 17 years of life. A lot of people like just look over that. But Ace was pretty much like raising Robin, like this Robin right here. Like Robin's childhood, just knowing her bloodline instantly made adults want to kill her as a child. Ace is the same way because his dad was Gold Roger. And Garp is a character who can't keep secrets to save his life, yet he managed to keep Ace's secret a secret for 20 freaking years. And it only got revealed once Ace was about to be executed, which is insane. So Garp did way more for Ace than Kizaru did for Bonnie or Kuma. And I mean, Kizaru literally was going to chop her in half. Like, it wasn't like Garp was in Marineford saying, all right, Ace, I'm going to kill you myself. You know, it's not the same at all, actually. It's very different. There's similarities, but they're very different. And then, but I do agree that it is good writing. He is having a moral dilemma, but Kizaru does not get the same pass Garp does, because for Garp, it was literally his grandson, and he did everything he could in his position. Because it's like, that's actually something I want to do another stream on. What if Garp freed Ace? What would have happened? Because you have to think, like, from the standpoint of society in One Piece, Garp is like the Marine Pirate King. He's just as important as the Fleet Admiral. And quite frankly, he might be more important than the Fleet Admiral to the civilians. So if the pretty much king of the Marines rebels against all of the Marines themselves and takes the Pirate King's son, like, how would society react to that? Like, the pirates would go crazy. Like, society would crumble if Garp had done that, you know? So, like, there's just a lot of possible bad things that could have happened, and Garp picked the safest way to get Ace free without crumbling society. He just, like, let Luffy go past him. So, yeah, but with Kizaru, it's like he literally was out here trying to kill Bonnie numerous times. He sent Bonnie flying through the light beam. She's a 12-year-old child. And, like, he was about to chop her in half. The only reason he stopped was because Luffy clocked him several times. And then when he gets his senses back, he gets clocked again. So I disagree with that. I personally don't even like Kizaru that much anymore. He doesn't know how to stand up for what he believes in. Also, new Frankie feats. He tanked Kizaru's kick without Haki. We need to see more from him. Dude, yeah, Frankie is actually extremely impressive. So something I was thinking, Frankie, if he just, like, used his brain to the fullest, he'd be the most dangerous Straw Hat, because he read the blueprints to Pluton and had them on him during NES Lobby, but he burned the blueprints. I don't remember if he memorized them or not, but it's likely that he did, meaning he could just make Pluton and, like, incorporate it into his battle Frankie and just be the strongest character. So yeah, that's something he could do. And I think, like, once we get to a point where Luffy's stronger than an ancient weapon, if we get to that point, I think that there might be a line of dialogue where Frankie's like, hey, Luffy, you want me to just build that thing for you? I could just do it if you want. I mean, they actually kind of did have that. They kind of did have that line of dialogue at the end of Wano, where Robin was like, hey, Luffy, Pluton's in Wano. It's like in the basement of Wano. We can go get it right now. You want it? And Luffy was like, nah. So I think that's the main reason why Frankie doesn't do anything, with the fact that he has, like, the ability to build Pluton. And also, Frankie's traumatized from building battle Frankies that got his adopted father captured. Like, in his flashback, he was building those powerful ships that he couldn't really control, and they used them to blast the civilians and capture Tom. So that's probably also part of the reason why he doesn't build the ancient weapons, is from PTSD from that, and the fact that Tom himself never built it, and Frankie would probably think, like, this would go against Tom's wishes. So I don't think Frankie ever will build an ancient weapon, but that's something worth talking about. Is, like, Frankie is really powerful, and also he's a technology-based fighter, so he doesn't really need Haki, because, like, if he wants to get stronger, he can just, like, make more stuff. Oh, let's see, any more comments? I wish Frankie could fight outside of Frankie Shogun. That would be cool. He definitely has, like, cool powers, and it would be interesting to see that. Something worth noting is, like, when Frankie was first introduced, he fought base Luffy pretty evenly before, like, in Water 7. But then in NES Lobby, base Luffy gets a lot stronger, so then Frankie can't keep up with him that much anymore. But it's like, when Frankie was introduced, he was, like, relative to base Luffy. So that's something worth mentioning. And I think they even do, like, cover stories where Frankie and Luffy are sumo wrestling, and it's, like, meant to imply that Frankie is around the same strength as Luffy without using his gears. But that doesn't apply now in post-time skip, because Luffy has all these crazy Hakis and Frankie doesn't have any. But all right, guys, that was everything I wanted to talk about. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the stream. Let me know what you guys thought about the stream. Yeah, this is kind of a new series. I've done a chapter analysis one time before, but yeah, I'll give you guys some juicy details that I don't normally put in full vids. So, like, my full videos, dude, like the One Piece is Obvious or the One Piece is Perfect ones, those ones take a good amount of time to make. Like, to make the script and to edit it and to get the whole thing out from start to finish. It's usually like 25 hours per video, maybe 30. Okay, about that, about 25 start to finish. And with these one, and so that would also be a similar process if I did that for each chapter. And in my mind, I would rather put that editing and energy into the series that I have going right now. The One Piece is perfect. The One Piece is obvious. The Jujutsu Kaisen's obvious. The Baki is obvious. Those series, I want my editing time to go into those, but I still have all these other ideas that I want to do, and I realize a lot of those can just go to live streams. So that's kind of how we're building the channel right now, is like about 1 or 2 big edited videos each week, and then live streams for like all the other ideas that I want to do, and then just a bunch of shorts like always. So that's kind of the format of the channel right now. Did you see the blood on Kizaru's head? That's what Giga said. Do I have that on here? I didn't notice that. I'm gonna have to look back in the chapter and see that, actually, Gigas. Because that's something I didn't notice. Thank you for telling me about that. I'm gonna look at that. And Octillery Knight said, W stream, thank you, bro. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And thank you, Thug Greasy, for your points. Honestly, those were interesting discussion points. And it's like, the stuff you were saying, Thug Greasy, makes me want to make a whole stream on a what if for Garp. So I probably will do that now. Because, like, your question is honestly a really good one. The concept of, is Kizaru just having a Garp moment? So like my initial thoughts was that he wasn't, but when I think about it more, it's like I can see what you're saying, Thug Greasy, because like he is conflicted about what he's doing, but he's still doing it. So that's actually interesting. I want to do another video on that. It will probably be another stream. But yeah, this was everything I wanted to talk about today, guys. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. The next one, I have like 4 or 5 shorts that'll come out tomorrow. And the next video I have that I'm working on right now, I got 2 vids I'm working on right now. One of them is Baki versus Musashi is obvious. And the other one is the final part of analyzing the end of Marineford. So yeah, I'm debating which one I'm going to post first. But next video, next full edited vid will probably be like posted on Sunday. But yeah, guys, that was everything I wanted to talk about. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.